And our last story is actually a personal experience that John was hoping to share with us. So, John, take it away.
Sure. Yeah. So the was coming home, I think, one night after a baseball game or something, and had eaten, just eaten dinner and sitting at the table, and the phone rings. You know how at least it didn't ring during dinner. My wife gets on the phone and was talking to a gentleman who was telling her that he had identified us as having a PC infected with malware in our home. And of course, my wife Teresa knows what I do for a living. So she handed me the phone and said, "Why don't you talk to my husband? He knows more about PCs and computer stuff than I do." So decided to kind of play along a little bit with the call. I think we all tend to do. And started capturing all the data. I asked the person what their name was. It was Jerry. And asked Jerry what company he worked with and what his title was. He was a global technical. Kind of mumbled the next bit. And then, I said the company's name was PC Speedy. And so after discussing it, he said, hey, they detected my IP infected and that they wanted to help me out. And I said, oh, great. What if we, and I told him, if we get disconnected, I want to make sure I get back in touch with you. Can I have your phone number? And they gave me this phone number in Las Vegas, Nevada, which actually is a company called either PC Speedy or Speedy PC, depending upon how you you look it up, and which didn't match Jerry's phone number, which was out of Louisiana, but it still is, probably within the realm of possibility that they're, a call center or something like that. And so, of course, I knew that it was fake, but I could see somebody who had even gotten that far thinking that this might be legitimate. So we chatted a bit, and I started, talking about, what was going on, and he was telling me about that they saw my IP attacking some servers, and they detected it, and they wanted to help. And about that time, I was tired. It'd been a long day. I just said, "Okay, all right, Jerry. We're done." I explained to him that I was in the profession, that I knew that it was a social engineering attempt, to sell me a product I didn't need, and at best and at worst infect me with some kind of a malware. They were needing some money, and told them not to call me again. There's a few things that my wife was kind of surprised that I ended the call at that point. And I just said I was just bored. If anything, it is something that kind of was surprising to me. How far this guy and how businesslike he did appear to be. I didn't get as much information as I wish I'd had. I thought about, after the call, if the call was over, should I have, did a call trace, of course, go to law enforcement. I wish I had asked, really exactly how did they get the IP address and then get to my phone number? An answer which I would assure would have been they got it from the phone company or they got it from an ISP, which, we don't do.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a fun call. Like I said, I like to play around with these guys a little bit sometimes when they call. But it is certainly, from a recommendation perspective, depending on how comfortable you feel, is you want to capture as much information as you can, because you do want to report it to somebody, whether it just be the do not call list, to law enforcement, to AT&T. I mean, you can do that as well. But make sure you do tell them not to call again. Because it is something that that they should not do. And this particular company has got lots of complaints, so just kind of be on the lookout that they are doing cold calls like this.
Yeah, my father got a call like this a couple months ago, 2-3 months ago, and since I don't answer calls that don't have a caller ID that I recognize, I don't get these. But I've always wanted to ask them, what was the IP address that you saw?
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody asks it. What was the IP address you saw? How do you know it was me?
Yeah, and that was the same question. After the call was over, I said, I wish I just asked, just because that they wouldn't, either they would have hung up probably or given me some crazy answer that wouldn't have made any sense.
Well, maybe they would have told you 192.168.0.1.
Right, yeah.
That's not me. I'm 192.168.0.2.
Oh. You hear that, guys? If you're going to call Jim, make sure you get the IP address right. Now, this has all the hallmarks of a standard social engineering attack, the biggest one being the urgent request at the beginning, letting you know that something horrible has happened to your computer, which should scare you into taking some sort of action. And if you get a cold call like this, you should be wary, obviously.
And never install software. They always want to install some kind of remote admin software after a while.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I've often wondered if the guys who are running the front end of this, the ones who are actually on the phone, are even aware that what they're doing is illegal, or that what they're doing is not technically, correct. I mean, maybe they've been trained in this. That maybe their idea of technical support is to do exactly what's on their script, and that it is actually real tech support. I've always wondered that. But the fact remains that whether or not they're aware of what they're doing, it still is illegal. So thank you for sharing that with us, John. And our listeners, our viewers should definitely keep an eye out for similar scams and report them if you do find them.